Back on ABC 24 this week, I'm Richard Ransom along with Otis Sanford. Brad Broders and Sam Harden will be joining us too. Let's talk about the tragedy this week involving the Reverend Eason-Williams. She was, as police tell it now, and prosecutors plan to charge the 15-year-old suspect as an adult with first-degree murder. And we're learning some new information about this case, including that he was wearing an ankle monitor at the time. Brad, let's first also talk about the prior record that we've been learning about the suspect as well.
Yeah, this 15-year-old appeared in court on Wednesday after being arrested late Tuesday. And Friday, I learned some new information about some prior convictions. He had a prior conviction of carjacking in 2021. And so that raises a lot of questions about this person already, committed a carjacking, went through the process, that was adjudicated. We also learned in court on Wednesday that according to court documents, after this carjacking, which killed Reverend Eason-Williams in Whitehaven, we learned that that same suspect, according to court documents, then carjacked another woman just 7 hours later across Shelby County in Cordova. And this goes to a broader issue. I've been covering this a lot in the last year. This past October, Judge Dan Michael told me that they had set a new record high of juveniles in detention facing either murder or attempted murder charges. Obviously, each case has to be decided on an individual basis, whether to be tried in adult court. As well as last month, Sam, you were at that city council meeting as well. Memphis police outlined that from June 2021 to June 2022, youth being arrested for gun offenses went up 85%. So this is a continuing issue of 15, 16, 17-year-olds being charged with very, very serious charges and impacting community leaders such as Reverend Eason-Williams, well-known, well-liked. I mean, this death caused so much uproar and immediate outcry. Chief Davis and other community leaders held a news conference just hours later.
Otis, you've learned a little bit more about this ankle monitor issue, which I think could be very explosive depending on what else we learn about that.
I think so, yeah. I have learned that he was equipped with an ankle monitor, and that was part of the case that Brad talked about. He had a prior, actually 3 carjackings in his past back in late 2021 when it came to
at this point he's 14 years old.
And he was 14 years old at the time. And when he came to juvenile court, I think none of the victims showed up at that hearing, but they did offer him a plea deal. His mother convinced him to take the plea deal. He had to perform a lot of other things like go to some classes, but he was equipped with an ankle monitor. But the problem here, and I think this is where it's going to get to be a political and policy issue here, Richard, the probation officer or the juvenile court officer who was responsible for making sure that they monitor that ankle monitor, they can't work 24 hours a day. They went home and they were not monitoring it at the time that this crime occurred, the killing of Pastor Eason-Williams. And so this raises the issue about do we have enough officers down in juvenile court to monitor these youths if they have ankle monitors? So this is going to be an issue, I believe, in the juvenile court judges race, in addition to some of the juvenile and some of the county commission races as well.
Right. Which also brings up that race that you talk about. Tariq Sugarman challenging Dan Michael for that position. It is another countywide race, the only other one where a Republican holds the position right now. So I'll throw that to you, Sam. If this ends up being true, that does raise some interesting issues with the early voting underway right now.
It does, and it does. I think it's a real issue. I'm not trying to diminish Otis's good reporting at all. I guess what I'm trying to say is how high information are voters, and how much are they actually taking in this information and making decisions at the ballot box about it, right? Like, I don't think that many people are. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't have polling to suggest that, but early voting's underway. It's really like how aware is the average voter in Shelby County of what the juvenile court judge does? Really, seriously. And I think that raises like this. How many times have I been on this program, or others been on this program? We're talking about crimes in the community that have made us stop and are tremendously sad for all facets of them. And, how often does that conversation that it sparks last? and often it doesn't last that long. And so I'm curious to see what we see on Election Day and whether or not this has any impact.
Well, I will make this very quick point to Sam's point. Yes, I mean, there's not a lot of talk going on about the juvenile court judge's race, but there has been tremendous talk. You mentioned it earlier, Richard. There's been tremendous discussion and angst about the death of Pastor Eason-Williams. And I expect that Tariq Sugarman will make this an issue. We still have a lot of days to go during early voting and on Election Day. I think this will get a little bit of traction about what the policies are down at juvenile court, especially as it relates to these ankle monitors. And I'm not saying that the juvenile court judge is totally responsible for this, but this is a policy issue that probably needs to get out there.
When it comes to the monitors, did you learn, are there times when there are certain times where there are no monitors at all, or was that just happened to be the case on the day that the pastor was shot?
Well, I mean, I didn't get that far into what I learned about this. I just know that these monitors, unfortunately, are not monitored 24 hours a day. And even though this happened like at 4:15 in the afternoon, there was really nobody paying attention to this young man who did not live in Whitehaven. And the crime occurred in Whitehaven. So this one looks like it slipped through the cracks a little bit.
And then the second carjacking involving another woman, she did not die, but her car was stolen up in Cordova.
In Cordova, right.
Before the car was found in Berkeley. So we got to all those parts of town and was not monitored.
Right.
All right. Very good. We'll leave it there. When we come back, we're going to talk about a big development for downtown. Perhaps we'll see the latest big project, a big hotel on life support right now. We'll talk about it in a moment.